a short recording, but um, nonetheless. All right. We'll try to move quickly through a lot of this. So thank you for doing that. I know that takes some time, but it really does help us. Some of us have been in community as parent center partners to date, but I think it's always good to welcome our new folks. John, did you want to say anything about this? Are notes on like what's kept on this page? I don't want to misstate anything.
Yeah, so the way it works is on the Signet Work event page calendar or event calendar page is where these recordings and resources will live. Any resources that have been like brought to the attention of me or you, Kelly, as being worth adding to the actual resource library will get added to the resource library. Following up today's meeting, it'll either be late this afternoon, but likely on Monday is when I will send a follow-up email that will include the recording. Will also include any resources that get shared today. Melissa from Idaho, I assume it's okay to share the document that you put in the chat, for example. If not, let me know. But I will send a link to the webpage on the Signet Work events calendar where all of that will be archived.
Okay, that's huge. Thank you so much. So hopefully you can find more there. All right, so let's get just a brief overview. I know this is familiar to many of us who've been in the core, what we're calling the core group with the Parent Center partners. But just for those who might be new, we have been meeting for about 2.5 years now. We started with a National Family Leadership Conference back in 22 in DC. And we realized that we really could learn from each other, that there was some real value in connecting across the SPDIG family partners to better understand how different centers were approaching it, how different SEAs were working. And we've been able to meet maybe every other month-ish. Sometimes we would go 3 months between, depending on, and we actually did get together at the SPDIG meetings as well. So we've had presentations about sort of a deeper dive of what some of us just shared, sort of what's going on in our specific SPDIGs, really good ideas, good strategies that were shared. And then Jennifer worked with us in May of last year to sort of like begin to evaluate where do we want to go beyond just this wonderful community of sharing. Where do we want to go? Because if we want to leverage some change, as a network of SPDIGs, that there may be some opportunity to join with others and make sure that our work is in conjunction with other SPDIG work. So that's I think where we began to have some more firm conversations about that, and I will share the notes from that momentarily. We also had an opportunity to talk with Jennifer about family engagement measures for the APRs. I think that's a challenge since we have some evaluators here. Maybe they have even more answers than we offered, but we did have some conversation about that. So from that purpose to practice exercise, and again, you have a link to the slides. There's a lot of text on these slides, and I don't want to use our precious time reading all of them, but I wanted to at least share sort of where our core group of parent center partners has been. These were some of the, I guess, principles that we identified within our group, sort of, and nothing surprising, but the importance of family voice, as I think Karen passionately and just shared the idea of just putting this into the fabric of all that we do in the SPDIG projects, really recognizing the key partnership opportunities that family centers and family partners can bring to the SPDIG projects, and then the buy-in. Obviously, lots of need to make sure that we have an audience to that's willing to go with us where we're headed. Again, as part of that process we did with Jennifer in May, these were some, I think, more practice for it focused ideas. So I mean, just putting them out there, knowing that we might, as we move forward as a combined expanded group, we might want to pull on some of these practices and explore a little bit more about those. And again, I'm rushing quickly because I know that you'll have opportunities to review the slides later. But next steps, I think, sort of extending from that purpose to practice, which led us here today, is the idea that we can't just keep banging the drum amongst our parent centers, in and among us ourselves. We love partnering with each other and learning from each other, but there needs to be a conduit into the projects as a larger base. So this was some of the questions we ask, and you'll see that first bullet was, it might be fruitful to invite project staff to join the meeting and discuss projects. And we would want to do that with allies from the SPDIG project. So as a result of the annual meeting, we were able to, John and Jennifer were able to call a nice group of folks who indicated they were interested. And that's really where today's first meeting originated. As Jennifer shared, this is sort of what we asked of you in that email last week, and what we're asking of some of our allies. Our new expanded group was to really focus on the importance of family engagement. How do we deliver that message? How we can clarify the value of partnering with the PTI or CPRC and furthering those for those family engagement efforts even more strongly, and then the overall impact that we can have when we partner. And then what would those models look like? I think we heard a little bit of some hints, some tidbits from Pennsylvania, for example, of how they've created their partnership model. And I think we could build more on that. A reminder that last fiscal year, there was a new absolute priority. Thank you, OSEP, that really did focus on improving the engagement of families in schools. The next couple slides just indicate what those are for those of us who were not writing that year. I believe Jennifer or John could give a thumbs up. I think that priority is also represented in this current opportunity. So we know that this is something that OSEP values. And we know that maybe some of this language will be driving some more interest in family engagement within the SPDIGs. So amongst ourselves, our core group of PTIs and CPRCs talked about this approach forward, is that we don't want to give up our core meetings. We really like that opportunity to talk amongst ourselves, but we also recognize we really need to be working in conjunction with our allies. So the proposal was to have a core group that meets every other meeting slot, and a expanded group that meets on those alternatives every other month. So proposed schedule is today, obviously meeting with expanded group to sort of float some ideas, get some thoughts going, get some buy-in amongst our group. Our core group would meet again in March, and then May would be an opportunity for a little bit longer meeting. Normally we meet on the fourth Friday. However, in May, that does run up against the holiday weekend. So we made a collective decision to move that May meeting to the third Friday, 11 a.m. to 12:30 Eastern. And it would be an expanded group with the idea that our new projects that were funded with that absolute priority 3, and that's New Hampshire, North Dakota, Wisconsin, and Wyoming, none of whom are here with us today, would perhaps be willing to share what their plans were and what their partnerships look like. So that's a lot. I am going to do a time check and see we have about 8 minutes to have some conversations. I'm going to return briefly to the 3 collective focus that Jennifer sent out last week, and ask folks for some thoughts about our proposed plan of action, how we might begin to bite at this large apple of these 3 tasks. Is there willingness and interest in continuing this work?
There's definitely willingness and interest in continuing the work, but adding more meetings to my schedule does not appeal to me.
So I will say,
I will
Amy,
be honest.
I appreciate that. So I will say that we were not adding more meetings. We are just we would continue our every other month or every 2 months meeting, but alternate those for a group.
Okay, I got you.
And-
That feels
yeah.
better. Thank you,
Yes.
Kelly, for the clarification.
Kelly, I'm thinking if, and I know we've done a little bit of this, but as I know, certain states like SPDIGs, like in Colorado, they're writing their grant. Like, I'm wondering how we might be able to share models from each other and how different states are really doing that family engagement piece well, versus, it's not just like, oh, parent centers need to be engaged, so, or involved, so we're just putting them in, but how do we really authentically and meaningfully do that? And I feel like it's good timing. Like I said, I'm having a meeting with our folks soon. We have a great relationship, but how do we make it more meaningful and more, again, value, right? We talked about funding streams, and certain parent centers get this, and but I'm just wondering if we can use these collaborative and these meeting sessions to more of, how I'm going to say best practices. But I do think, from this group, I've heard a lot of great things in different states and different partnerships, and I think we can all learn from each other. That's just tossing it out there.
And if I may, this is Dylan again from Arkansas. One interest that I think we would have is, I see within the slide deck, the core group has had prior meetings. Do you guys have recordings of those that we can catch up on? I think related to what was just said, just what was shared, and the like. Are those recorded?
So I'm not sure we recorded all of them. And if we did, to be really upfront, I think there might be some concern about sharing them outside. So when we met, we were definitely meeting from a community, an internal community of CPRCs and PTIs. And it was safe space, for lack of a better term, for sharing some of our experiences and some of our frustrations. So I'm not sure. However, we do have some notes, I think, that we might be able, John has done a good job, at least most recently, has kindly taken notes on some of the things that we have discussed. So we could certainly make an effort to share those. Is that all right, Jennifer and John? Am I saying anything? Okay. But thank you, Michelle, for your suggestion. And I hear you, Dylan, that we will, where we can, you just sort of leverage what we've already done and make that public.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I'm particularly interested in our new expanded members who kindly joined us today. So I think that's our Montana friends and our Arkansas friends, particularly our newest folks here. Do you have does this make sense to continue this work and then expand it? Do you have the bandwidth to do that? Okay.
I think we do in Montana for sure. It would be helpful for us. It's something we really need to work on.
Agreed.
Thank you. So I think our plan was to certainly get these meetings on the calendar, and John can help with that, make sure that everybody gets the calendar invite for the upcoming meetings. And then in May, we had hoped to hear from our 4 newest projects. Jennifer, do you have any thoughts on that since they're not here? Is that still a reasonable expectation?
Yeah, we can reach out to them and set it up ahead of time.
Bringing the teacher in. Yeah, I think it makes some sense, and it certainly, I think, would help us collectively understand with that new priority how what the visions are and what they were envisioning and how that's proceeding. And then how many do you expect to fund out of this current year, Jennifer? Do you have a number of awards?
Gosh, that should be right in my mind, and it's not.
Sorry, I
a good
didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No. For some
Probably
reason, I
somebody
got that.
writing for it is aware of that. So
Yes.
maybe-
This is Beth. I think I heard 4.
Okay.
Yeah, that rings with my memory too.
Okay. So we will have, under best of circumstances, 8 new projects that really at least have a stated focus, amongst others, on family engagement, which expands our opportunities. So I see we have about 2 more minutes. I want to just open the floor. Other comments, thoughts? Okay, thanks. So Beth, put in the chat that as an evaluator, she'd love to get, feedback that we had on the measurement, that measurement conversation that we had, I think, in September. Oh, and thank you, Sharon, put in the chat, the Families to the Max. That's a great example. And very cool about how they've brought lots of pieces together to make a very, innovative approach to family engagement in the state with a lot of authentic, homegrown family voice.
Kelly, I had a quick question for Dominic. I don't know if you could put in the chat or tell us again, what was the training or the resource that
Yeah.
he mentioned? I'm curious about that. About IEP and family engagement. I
It's
need to know what that was.
it's the International Association for Public Participation. Yeah, and they're a national, actually international family engagement practice. Yeah, and so you can find them online, and they have trainings nationwide, so.
Thank you.
Learning from each other already. Oh, now I'm getting connection unstable. So, let me know if there's anybody else. I'll look for hands. Thanks, Jennifer, for putting that in. Jennifer just chatted in the name of that International Association. So grab that. And John, this recording will be available on the site as you identified. So think the chat goes with that. Yes, yes. So you'll be able
That's
to.
correct. What I do is I'll make a summary of
Fine,
the
that after.
notes and the chat.
All right.
And send it out.
Thanks, John. And we'll maybe in that same location, just make sure anything that have from the past can also be, we can make sure that that's there as well. Past notes from the parent center partner meetings. So
Okay.
we'll talk. All right. So our next meeting for the core group, PTIs and CPRCs, will be March 28th. And we hope to see all of our friends and even more on May 16th for our expanded group, a little bit longer meeting. Thank you all.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.